Hello and welcome to the Marketing One podcast. I'm your host, Anusha Khannan, and it is great to have you here. Are you looking to move into marketing or want to learn marketing from scratch? We discuss all things marketing, analytics, business, personal branding, AI, and much more in a way any layman can understand. If you're new here, make sure to follow along and get on that email list by visiting anushakhannan.com/email list to receive newsletters from me twice weekly. Follow at Anusha Ramesh Khannan on TikTok. Tag us on your stories. Would love to see that. And now let's dive in. Welcome back to today's episode. In today's episode, we have Yawa on the show. I am so excited to talk to her because I've been waiting for about a month to talk to her today and to talk about her experience. She was the director of demand generation at Vimeo, where she led some incredible global campaigns. She knows a lot about marketing, and her insights into building demand gen teams using AI and navigating the ever-evolving marketing landscape is going to be so valuable. So without any further ado, let's just jump into the episode, talk to Yawa, and get all the knowledge. Hi, Yawa. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Anusha?
I'm great. It's so good to have you here. I've waited for a while to do this episode, so I'm just excited to have you.
Me too as well. I really like your style, so I'm excited for you to interview me.
Oh, thank you. I really just want to start off asking you questions on demand generation, your journey, what you think about AI, automation. So can we start off with you telling a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are?
Yes. I mean, one of the things that I will say is marketing really fall on my lap. So that's very interesting. Just to give some background. So I came in the US more than a decade ago. And believe it or not, I actually got a master in business administration and finance. So that's really my background. So from finance to marketing, there is a long way.
Yeah, that is a very different field.
So it's a totally different field. But the story is after my MBA in the US, I actually moved back to France where I grew up. And at the time, what's one of the things that I have is I was fully fluent in English. And that's not something, if you guys know French people, we are not very good at languages outside of French. So that's one of the things that the companies that I applied for needed. They needed somebody who was very fluent in English. And here I was. I had some experience in the US, very comfortable in international setting. So that was my first job. My first job in marketing was for a startup called Net Affiliation at the time. And I was doing affiliate marketing, and I was working with different people all across Europe, and specifically, so speaking English, obviously, that was one of the parts that I was hired. But one of the things that it did is I got to understand digital marketing fairly well. I was working in affiliate marketing, but also talking with people that have engineering background, some people that were doing SEO, SEM, all of that together. And that's really how I started in marketing. And after that, I actually moved back to the US and got a gig, I'll say, working, I was an intern specifically, working at a SEO organization called WordStream. At the time, I live in Boston, so it was in the Prudential Center. And so I did SEO, and I learned a lot of things that I can't disclose, because we did a lot of gray and black SEO. But after that, that's kind of how I started working in SEO. I work in SEM. I did affiliate marketing. I did media buying, a couple of things. And it really all came together a couple of years ago when I started working in demand generation. So it's really because I had this understanding of all the different channels, SEO, SEM, affiliate marketing, you name it, how all of it work together, how to manage a website. So demand gen was really, the natural evolution of that. And I've been in demand gen since.
That is so great. I feel like I narrowed down demand generation too quickly because you have so many things that I can learn from. I focused on demand generation way too quickly. I do want to yeah, please go ahead.
No, I think it's interesting. Demand gen is really it's fascinating. It's really, when you think about demand gen, is the last border of marketing before sales. That's really what it is. And I feel good people that get into demand gen, you really need to have an understanding of how things are falling together.
Right.
And that's what's become this is who are the best demand gen marketer, like people who understand how everything fall together and have a big picture of like either the digital marketing landscape or how to really fill up a marketing funnel.
No, 100%. Because I think I got to learn about demand generation when I thought it was lead generation. I didn't know the difference between the both. I thought it was just like, oh, create demand so that people will buy the product. But then I learned that that is not how things work. Lead and demand are completely two different directions. And that is how I kind of got interested in this topic, to be completely honest with you.
Oh, well, don't get me started between the difference between lead generation, demand capture, demand creation, all of that. I think you're right. Like that is good to have a good understanding of what everything mean. But at the end of the day, the way I'm thinking about demand gen, is really like a way to make sure that any of the marketing activities, any of the marketing initiatives that you have really lead to pipeline for sales and to understand that to be able to do that, you really need to have like a good understanding of different channels. And it's not just being a specialist in a specific area. It's really more like being like a guide, I'll say, like an overseer in a way.
I love that. I love that you said that, because I've also been focusing a lot on being like a generalist, understanding the whole buyer's journey instead of just focusing on one thing and thinking that that one thing is going to work. With your experience being a leader, what would you say has like impacted your approach the most in demand generation?
I mean, obviously, I cannot not say AI. I cannot not say AI. I think like I'm really living into that, like lately, and I think like for the past year and a half, like it has really like transformed so many things. So that's one of the things that I will say, like, definitely I'm living into it the day to day, like the way AI has been accelerating so many things. So for example, we can generate content like so much quicker. And because of that, there's definitely on my side, I keep asking me, okay, because I can do it, should I? It's really like, what's the impact of it at the end of the day? Like when I use like AI to maybe like create like a series, sequence, on outreach or anything like that. What's the impact? Like it's really what I'm thinking about right now. That's what I'm living in the day to day. And I'm very curious, to be honest, like what's happening next year? Like how demand gen professional, how we're going to reinvent ourselves to consider how AI has a way to be more productive, but also has a way to have like more impact. So I'm fascinating about that. I do not have the answers right now. I'm really much like a practitioner, but I'm excited about where the ecosystem is leading and what will come our way next year.
Yeah, but I do want to ask you with the outreach point, how do you balance automating outreach with like the human touch point? Like, how do you balance that with AI and everything coming up?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's a lot of advice out there, but one of the things that I really want to make sure is like, yes, we use AI to create like an outreach sequence, for example, or it could be like a nurture as well. So that's one. But obviously, like, I feel like there's nothing has interaction between marketing and sales. Like, typically I like to have like a sales kind of like giving their input into the outreach sequence. Does it make sense? Does it not? I mean, because at the end of the day, they're the ones sending like the outreach sequence, right? Like their name is on it, their Calendly link is on it. So
Yeah.
like, does it make sense to you? Like, do you think it's like where the business is at this point or where your pipeline is at this point? Does it make sense to reach out to this person this way? So I do not have a proper answer. And I feel like if somebody tells you that they do, they're lying. So I do not have a proper answer to that, but I think like AI, the way I'm using it is like it's helped me to scale for sure. But there's definitely like an additional touch, human touch, like me reviewing that, adding like a very specific example related to other organization I'm working with, and also adding the touch that only sales will know because they're like, oh, that doesn't sound quite right, etc., etc. So it's really using AI to scale, number one, but then like adding your personal touch and then adding your knowledge to it.
100%. What would you say are some of the challenges that you faced in situations like this? Like you have to be there, present, and actually examining these copies or things you're sending to your buyers. what kind of challenges have you faced as someone that's just like might be getting started in demand generation?
For someone that might be starting just in demand generation, there's a lot of emails that come out, or emails that we create, that I create, and I'm the first one guilty of this, that really look alike.
Yeah.
And that might be one of the pitfalls, I'll say, is like how are we being unique? How are you standing when I'm writing, like when I'm writing a series of email or any content for that matter, is like, how am I making sure that it's a unique voice? Or working with a content marketing team to make sure that it's a univox that represents the brand and that represent also where I believe the prospect is in their journey.
Right.
And that's not straightforward. That might not be the best thing if you're just starting in Dimension, because it takes a little bit, obviously, like depending on the companies that you work with, to kind of like own that voice, and like own the voice of the organization, like the brand, but also like fully understand the prospect and like looking at the customer journey and like identifying how to talk to them at that point in their journey versus this one. So there's no straight answer, but like I feel like that's the number one thing. Like when a dimension, somebody starting in the dimension owns that, they are the king or the queen of the marketing funnel. Like, you get it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I also think there's a lot of cross collaboration with sales as well, because you need to understand where your buyers are at before you can craft the kind of emails. And you have to be in that place where you can actually collaborate with them, because when you're just getting started in demand gen, chances are, like you said, you won't be owning the process. And who owns the process is very important, is what I have seen. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I agree with that. Actually, one of the best advice that one of my previous manager gave me is really spending time in Gong. So regardless of what tool you have out there, like I'm familiar with Gong, I use it in different organization, but it's really spending time listening to the calls. So you have, as a dimension person, I do have like interaction with sales and one-on-one with different sales executive, but also is like really taking on yourself to spend some time in Gong and like listening to the calls, identifying like what's going on, and like just like digesting that information. I think like that's a number one thing for me. As a dimension person, there's two kind of type of dimension person. Some people are very good at storytelling, and some people are very good at data. And the great dimension person, professional, are like the ones that are good at both. So like the storytelling part, like Gong or any, like listening to any call, kind of like help you build up like the storytelling thing. It helps you understand how the storytelling that you're putting out there, but also how the sales team is digesting that storytelling and saying that to the prospect. So that's one thing. And then there's like the data, that like all the things that are on Salesforce, Mercato, you name it, like, but really owning both. So for me, like the storytelling aspect, like kind of like precede even the data, and or maybe I'll say it's a part of it. It's another set of data that you can use to really own your job as a dimension person starting.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's a lot of debate on storytelling versus data, but I think you do the storytelling and then you check if it works with data. You do the same process over and over again. That is kind of how I looked at it. And that's interesting you said that, because a lot of people think it's either storytelling or it's data. It can never be both together. I'm like, that can't work that way. It has to coexist.
Yes, they have to coexist. And actually, I'm thinking about storytelling as another part of like another kind of data. It's just word. It might not be numbers, but it's really another indicator about like your road to success and your road to understanding your prospect and how you can present better you can present the story to them.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. We're talking a lot about like email and how we're personalizing emails to our buyers. I want to understand, with different markets and emerging markets versus saturated markets, how do we understand and kind of tailor that? Has there been any challenges that you've kind of come across?
Oh yeah, I have like so many examples of that. And I feel like today is actually a good time to talk about it. So I think like we can wrap up I say the past 4 years. Let's pass 4 years. We're in 2024. Let's like rewind back to the pandemic. So the pandemic, like luckily, the pandemic has a lot of humanness back, but I'm thinking about it from like a technology point of view. So at the time I was working at like a very, like I'll say like high volume marketing funnel. So the idea is that we have a lot of inquiry coming in because I was working at an organization, a B2B software. We were providing like softwares that organization needed. Like, so for example, how to run webinar online because nobody can meet in person. So there's less in-person meetings. So you need like a B2B software, like the ones that my company was provided. So that's number one. So it's like my chance was to be in that industry at that moment where we experienced like a lot of volume. That's number one. So when you think about this, like in your marketing funnel, is you get in a lot of inquiry, you get a lot of MQL, you got a lot of SQL, and really like your role in a way is like demand capture. To go back to what we are talking about, like your role is like demand capture. The demand is there. How can I best capture these demands? And to do so, there is like different techniques that you put in place, and part of it is like lead generation, etc. But like making sure that your marketing funnel is built for demand capture, like really to capture the demand, like high volumes. That's one. So that's the story. But then like, I think right now we are in a different ecosystem. We are in a different situation where it's not so much like high volume. It's like you have less inquiry coming up. How do you make sure that the MQL are actually better qualified? And then like how do you interact with sales to make sure that you equip them to really answer well to the MQLs that you have, a marketing qualified lead. Sorry, I'm using a lot of jargon right now. So
Totally fine. Yeah, I was about to ask you, like, could you like expand a little bit on that because people might not know what MQL versus SQL is.
Yeah, so MQL is like marketing qualified lead. SQL is sales qualified lead. And then when you think about the marketing funnel, like the first term for it is inquiry. So let's say somebody's coming to your website, they want to learn about you, say, hey, they fill out a form. That's an inquiry level. Again, that's definition change depending on the organization, but I'd say that's a fair image of the marketing funnel. And it's like when you think about the marketing funnel, it's a way to really narrow down like anything that's coming in through different distribution channel, and to narrow down to the opportunity, which is the end of the marketing funnel when a deal is signed. Opportunity, but when a deal signed is like sales, like get the money. So that's really what it is. So it's thinking about this way. And to go back to my example, I feel like during the pandemic or right after, we were in a situation where we had high volume. But right now, where the situation was the volume is lower, and it's not so much about demand capture anymore. It's more like about demand creation. It's like how creative are you about like going after your prospect, making sure that they have the information that they need to make the good decision, not just this prospect, but also your sales team. So it's a totally different ecosystem, I feel, or at least what I've lived in the past 4 years, where the skills that you need are totally different. It's really going after like this market, people that they might not just know that they have a problem yet, or they don't know what it is, or they're still searching. There's much more of there. All of that to said, yes, we are in a different ecosystem. I hope I answered your question.
No, you definitely did. Like understanding like the demand can come from different kinds of industries and different kind of personas. I also want to understand like how do you customize them or kind of personalize them according to what these personas could look like, because it's different. And I've worked with a lot of clients who are from different industries, and it's so weird and difficult to understand what are your needs and how can I kind of position whatever I'm selling in a way that you will actually understand how that's going to help your company. How do you kind of do that? Which is a big deal when you're capturing demand.
Yeah, so I guess your question is more like how to talk to different persona. I feel like, so where I'm coming from is the personas that I mostly work with are like marketers in a way. So at my previous organization, but also previously, like marketers are creators. So it's really, one of the things that I will say is like a passion for your persona. That's not always the case. Like some people can jump from an industry to another, but I really feel like there's a part of it is like a passion about like who your persona are, and like a sense of empathy, if not passion, but empathy, and really trying to put yourself in their shoes. So and the understanding like, okay, what's problem may they have. So it's really like understanding like what this persona is all about. So there's a lot of I'll say anthropology work in a way, or like very partnering with a PMM, a product marketing team, to really understand like what this person are all about. So that's one of the ways that I approach that. But and once you have a good understanding of this, the implication or the conclusion of that is the way you talk to the language that you use, the way you might talk to a specific persona is not the same one, the same ways that you may talk to another one. So that's really like number one, understanding like your persona, and then number two, how they speak, to adopt like the same language. And there's a little bit of a merger between how they speak and how your brand is speaking. That need to be done. So I talk about the persona, but there's some research too that I'm very fascinated about. It's more about like the targeting, I'll say. Like in Dimension, we really go after specific term of persona. We might receive like some information from PMM saying like, oh, we're going after director plus or C-suite level. All of this is great, but sometime, often enough, in the marketing channel, marketing funnel, the first person that might start the journey is not the director, is not the C-suite level. And I believe like LinkedIn has done some research about that. I should check it out. I need to remember, but they have done like some very interesting research saying that most of the time, like the person who enters the marketing funnel, it might be like the intern or the manager level, and then it move all along to get to the C-suite level. So definitely when we think about like the targeting of our campaign, that's one of the things that I'm really trying to be very cautious about. It's like who we're targeting, but do not limitate myself to a specific job title or a specific seniority. And that's one of the things that I love, like really thinking about, to make sure that your marketing funnel, you're not ignoring like a big part of your target audience as well.
Yeah, that's actually fascinating. I also know one of my friends also used to work in lead qualifying. And I remember that she used to be that person that's actually looking at it, but she was not in an executive position at all. So even like inverse, it still works out that way. It's not like the directors or C-level people are actually looking at it, which kind of makes sense to me right now with what you just said.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense when you think about it by when you think about like demand capture versus demand creation, is really that too. Is like, how do you nurture the rest of the population? Like the rest of the population, the rest of your audience, how do you nurture that, and how do you make sure that you're not ignoring this as well?
Yeah, it's so important, like, to understand you cannot just limit yourself to certain kinds of people, because then you might be missing out on actual people that might be making the decision. You just don't know that they're the ones that are making the decision.
Yes, that's true. But at the end of the day, so Dimension, like, we are data driven. Like, so every quarter you get a goal, and you have when we build the marketing funnel, you have like ratios that you need to support. So inquiry to MQL, or MQL to SQL, and SQL to Ops. So that's really kind of like your North Star. And at the end of the day, a Dimension person is successful, or the success of the work is based on like, did you reach your pipeline goal? Yes or no? It's like really, it's a yes or no question. There's no way around it. Data doesn't lie. So within that, there is like wiggle room, like, because you're really trying to optimize your marketing funnel all along. So what I just mentioned about like the targeting that you're doing like early on in your campaign, etc., that's very important. But at the end of the day, like, Sometimes we go north, sometimes we go south. Like that's some of the, I'll say like some of the tools that you're kind of like trying to manipulate or adjust to really help you reach your goal at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's actually very insightful. I'm going to keep that in mind. One of the things I want to ask you is when we're talking about like how we're seeing the market shift, is there any way that we can kind of not predict exactly, but maybe kind of predict if things are going to change, and how do we prepare ourselves for that accordingly?
So I have a couple of ideas around that. And I don't believe I'm the only one. I'm very interested right now about how demand and brand are going to come together. So there is a say about like demand and brand, like that they are very interrelated. But when we think about it, or when we think about an organization, most of the time you have like the demand gen team on one side, and then there is like the brand team, or I'll say like more like generic marketing on the other side. Yeah. And I'm fascinated about that. I do think I do think that today brand is more and more important. And there's many ways to build brand, like whether you're a small organization, a startup, or like you're a more established organization with brand equity, obviously. But I think in 2025, this is what is going to be. I really believe in that, and I do feel like the job of the dimension person, like my job, is going to evolve in many ways. And I don't have a perfect roadmap, but I do feel like brand and demand are going to merge more and more. And like a demand gen professional need to be versed into like the brand vocabulary and reverse. So I might be wrong, but I want to see that happen.
I feel like I want to see that happen too. I kind of agree with you there, because I feel like there's so many products now for everything. Any product you take, there's something or the other that's doing the exact same thing or something different than that. So how do we stand out? Showing that our brand is more valuable and connecting with our audience in that way is kind of where I see marketing going as well. Because I mean, you know better than I do, but I kind of pick up on that as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and sales, when you talk to sales, is like, that's one of the things when you receive like cold call, and God forbid, like you have like a director plus job title, you receive like cold call all the time. And that's one of the things that you will hear like over and over from the sales team, is like when they do cold call, like a brand, equity, like a brand name, like really carry a lot of weight. And the way to build that brand, I feel like is rely on the marketing team. And I do feel like more and more the demand gen team can support in that way. So it's gonna be fun. Let's say this way, the next few months is gonna be fun to kind of like see that happen and see how our job, our role is gonna evolve.
100%. Do you have like any experimentation that you did in demand generation? And did you have like any aha moments during them? Any example like that?
Not aha moment, but like a lot of, you go into a campaign with an assumption. And one of the things that, one of the favorite campaigns that I had is actually like a campaign which didn't work at all, but like I believe in it so much. So I was working for an organization at the time, and we really like put in place like a kind of like a interactive content. So it's like, it was not really an ebook. It was really more like an interactive test where like the prospect was coming in, kind of like select different answers. And then based on that, we were giving them like a specific profile about who they are. And then based on that, building like empowering the sales team to go back to that prospect and say, hey, by the way, this is a result of your test. And this is like, we believe like based on that, you have this kind of problem, etc., etc. So it was a very fun adventure. Like it's really like select yourself adventure kind of process for the prospect to do so. Mm-hmm. And so I was very involved in this campaign, just like to think about it from a like a prospect navigation and point of view, like when it will happen in the customer journey and all of that. So it's like I'll say mediocre result about that. So that's one of the surprises thing about you have also has a dimension person like coming with X years of expertise. You have a lot of expectation about a specific campaign. Like there's all the reasons there that, oh, it will work. And then the results are mediocre. And at the end of the day, you're looking at it by the pipeline. Like did it create pipeline, yes or no? That goes back to like that question at the end of the quarter. What are some of the campaigns that help you perform the most? And I learned a lot through that. And it doesn't mean that I won't be doing this kind of campaign again, but I think it's all about like the timing, the people that you work with, how perfectly executed the sales enablement part is, and how like all the materials that you put in place. So to answer your question, there's no like aha moment per se, but I think I'm learning much more from like campaign where that did not succeed as expected than
Yeah.
like a normal like email marketing campaign or even like LinkedIn ad campaigns that we run.
That's amazing, actually. This kind of puts me on a spot. Like, I'm thinking about this through, and which is like, there's a company called Matcha, which recently did something very similar to what you said. They
Okay.
had me like fill out this form to figure out what kind of a networking person I am. I did all of that, and then they added me to their email list. I'm like, I will never be a part of what you're doing, but it kind of makes me think I might not be a part of it right now, but maybe in the future I might be, and they can start educating me on that now and take me through the Briar's process. And at one point I might convert, even though I don't want to convert right now, which kind of makes me think there are some people that might never convert, that might never
Yeah.
resonate with. So how do we kind of identify those people and remove them from our list, or do we just keep educating them forever?
Yeah, yeah, and the forever is exactly. I mean, you nail it. The forever, it's exactly that. Like because that's exactly this example that you provided is perfect. That's exactly what it is. Like there is some campaign at the point, like we place them in our mind as a dimension person, and we place them at a certain point in the journey, but we might be wrong. Like it's like way too early, and it's all about like the nurturing and like anything after. But like this what you said, the keyword is forever. And there's like two debate about that, like nurture, like the nurture aspect of it, like the conversion rate in nurture are like very low. And yeah, let's be honest about that. So like you enter a nurture, you might as well be like, hey, forever. And like how long are we gonna email people? Like until when? um and that's really like making sure that we have like breakup moment at within the nurture that kind of like revolutionize or like revamp the relationship. And that's really what I'm thinking about, like how do we make those interactions, those nurture, like much more um human in a way, much more human and empathetic in a way. Like, are we going to nurture somebody forever, or how do we create those moments within nurture to kind of like break down the process?
Yeah, I feel like Duolingo does such a great job at that. Duolingo, the language learning app, they kind of have this threshold of how many times they'll tell you that you haven't done your lesson, and they'll just break up with you. Like, they have like very few moments that they do that, and they're like, okay, we're not going to send you any messages anymore. You do your learning, you don't do your learning, we don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Which we cannot exactly do in the B2B space, because you never know when someone's going to start their own company and then want your product, which kind of always makes me think like, what is the end point? Is there any statistics that's telling us that we can stop at this point?
Yeah, but I love that you're using like Duolingo as an example, because there's a lot of things that they're doing very well, like kind of anything related to awareness as well. But to your point about like Duolingo or like B2C and B2B, I do believe that there's a lot of things that B2B we need to learn from B2C side. So I work, like my experience has been like mostly on the B2B side, but like there's so much that we can learn from the B2C side. And that's just the beginning. That's one of the say, like people are saying, oh, B2B is boring in a way. That's not that's true. Yes, okay, that's true.
Yes,
But
yes.
I feel like there's like so much that we can learn from the B2C side, and I'm always like on the lookout for those kind of example, so I can like learn from them that, oh, how can it apply to B2B? And
Yeah.
I think the same way that there is a merger, I believe there is a merger between like demand and brand. I do believe that at some point, not a merger because that's very two different ecosystem, but like there's like ones that we can learn from each other.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for that to come to this place. It's kind of feeling like I kind of feel like this is a conversation between sales and marketing. How it used to be, sales and marketing won't get along. Now it's like branding and demand generation coming
Yeah.
into that area. I'm curious to see where that fight goes.
Yeah, it's never ending.
Yeah. As a leader, I want to ask you because I'm someone that's also looking for a job right now. What would you say are well, how do you approach hiring and building successful demand gen teams?
Yeah, I think so on the dimension side, so to go back to the examples that I mentioned, I believe that there's like the storytelling aspect and there's the data aspect of it. So the way I'm thinking about team is like making sure that we're bringing like people on the table that have like different expertise. So some of the demand gen people that I work with, they are excellent with data. So I can think about like one colleague right now, like she's a queen of Salesforce. She's like she can like get like everything done in there like amazing, and she can tell like look at number and tell a story out of that. And there is like another dimension person who's more like on the storytelling aspect of it. So I think that's very important to bring like dimension professional with different type of expertise and different type of experience within the team. But one of the qualities that I'm really looking for on the dimension side is like actual genuine curiosity about your prospect, like genuine curiosity about who you're serving, like your audience and who you're going after. But also, so that's number one in terms of like building team. And number two is like somebody who has like strong cross-functional skills, because dimension is not, we are not an island. To go back to my kind of my journey in dimension, or how I end up in dimension, it kind of like, it was a natural evolution because I understand SEO, I understand SEM, I did affiliate marketing, and I kind of understood all of that coming together. And all of these different channels like feed the marketing funnel. So, and then as a dimension person, you work with PMM, product marketing team, you work with content, you work with a creative team, because like at the end of the day, they're the one like kind of like making your asset like look beautiful and all of that. You work with sales, and all of those people have different goal, each of them. So you need to understand like what motivates them. So a dimension person, to go back to my definition, there's a guide, they're a facilitator. And that's the kind of skills that I'm looking for when I'm hiring or thinking about like a dimension person. It's really how good of this person is working with cross-functional team. So that work well in like a bigger marketing team. But I think like the same thing apply when you're like a smaller team, or maybe just on a startup level, or a team of one or two. Like this happen, like you really need to be able to wear different hats or understand how different people are working, what motivates them.
Wow, that's actually really good. Take notes, guys, whoever's listening and wants to be in the dimension field. Take notes. Yeah, I mean, I kind of, that's all I had for you. Did you want to say something that I didn't ask you?
No, I think that's great. I mean, thank you for your work on that. I kind of like going through like your document as well. I think like we cover it all. Yeah, I think we did. Is there
Awesome. Yeah.
anything that you want to know that you haven't asked me? Well,
I actually have a lot of questions. I always have a lot of questions, but I think I'll ask you off screen as well, like asking you a lot of different questions from what we just had conversations about. If anyone has questions, please send it to me. I'd love to like forward it to Yawa and connect with her.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
great too. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much. It was so good to talk to you.
So good to talk to you. Best of luck in your job search.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was really good to learn from you. I look forward to keep learning from you. And your LinkedIn posts are so inspiring. Yesterday it was like not even 11 a.m. and I learned so much from you. So please go follow her on LinkedIn. She's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much, Anusha. I really appreciate that. One of the things that I'm really striving for is like really democratizing dementia in a way, and make sure that more people understand what it's all about.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
I just got done with recording the episode and I hope you found it useful because I absolutely loved learning about demand generation, a lot of different things that she talked about. I've written down notes and please do make sure to go follow Yawa on LinkedIn. She puts out a lot of good content and I've learned so much. Like I said, yesterday, this is happening on October 17th, but yesterday I actually got an opportunity to read one of her posts and I thought it was really good. So go check it out. I'm going to have all the links in the description. Go follow her, go follow me everywhere. Subscribe to my newsletter because I'm going to have a lot more insights there so you can just kind of break down and learn a lot more. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next episode. That's it for today. Hope you found it useful. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or email me at anusha@anushakannan.com. Follow me on LinkedIn to never miss my journey and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.